we are talking about the season 4 finale of Doctor Who, this grand epic episode that probably was going to be Russell's last episode, or last 4 of episodes, but he decided to go on for 5 more specials. So
I can feel the enthusiasm radiating off the screen from you guys. We all loved
I'm
it,
in
right?
pain. To be fair, I am rather enthusiastic about this episode.
I think he knew he was going to make the 2009 specials because they were planning the year off anyway, and they knew they were going to throw in random specials here and there.
Okay, so he probably thought the end was near and wanted to get every bit of craziness he could.
Oh yeah, he knew this was his last series anyway.
Who wants to go first? Because
Yeah.
I had experience with Eden's raising her hand, so Eden, go first, I guess.
I liked it. I think there are problems, most of which have to do with companion shenanigans. I really liked it. I don't know if maybe it was the fact I hadn't watched this series in a while, but I cried at Murray Gold's score, not at events of the episode. Just the very beautiful music. I think the acting was super on point, especially the first, I was going to say the first, half, but really just the whole first part, Stolen Earth. It was really good at building up suspense and, genuinely being unsure of what's going to happen and who's going to, get out of this alive or whatever. I know that Nick had a differing experience, but still liked it. But overall, good by me with some, stuff thrown in there that maybe I didn't agree with. But, we'll get to that when we get to that.
This episode is the one that proved to me that I'm fickle and my opinions can't be trusted. Our original plan was to do this a week ago, and so last week I watched this episode with Brianna, and I really did not enjoy most of it. I had what I'd sort of always, for a couple of years now, has been my take on this episode, which is that The Stolen Earth is a really fun, sort of silly thrill ride of an episode, and then Journey's End gets really melodramatic and not fun. I don't enjoy it. I watched it again with Eden 2 nights ago at 3 o'clock in the morning because neither of us could sleep. What was I thinking? I loved it. I have my problems with it, most of which have to do with the clone, and we'll get to him. But that aside, I can't think of anything else where my opinion has changed so drastically in such a short period of time. Last week, I was very lukewarm on this. And 2 days ago, I was having a ball with it.
I think Nick's pretty much right. I've always really loved this. I know it's a very polarizing finale, and I don't think it's my number one favorite finale. For me, it's always been up there. I don't know whether it's just nostalgia because it's the first finale that I watched, and I don't think it is, because I remember liking Last of the Time Lords when I was younger, and that didn't age well.
Last of the Time Lords isn't terrible until the last 15 minutes.
Well, I disagree. But anyway, as far as this episode, or these 2 episodes, I think everything involving Rose is terrible. I also think it's a bit overstuffed for its own good, but not to the extent that I don't enjoy it. I think pretty much, I would say around 80% of it is great. And the problems that do happen are kind of going to happen in a story this ambitious, this huge, this stuffed with so many concepts and characters. I do think they bring some characters back and just don't do much with them, but I think the acting is superb. The direction from Graham Harper is his best work on the show, next to probably Waters of Mars. I think Waters' exit is probably the saddest exit a companion has gotten, and definitely the most tragic one. And Julian Bleach is my favourite Davros. So there's lots of stuff that I like in this, compared to the stuff with Rose and the Clone Doctor, which is just embarrassingly awful. But I can let that slide. I've always really liked these 2.
I have thoughts. Some of them might have to get cut out, but okay.
Are you actually going to do this? Are you going to make the Okay, fine. Go ahead. Do it.
Well, first, I just want to say this finale, it's weird to me. I do enjoy it on a just so crazy level. It's like crack cocaine when you watch it. It's just so over the top.
I think you mean consuming crack cocaine, because watching crack cocaine usually doesn't do much to you.
But either way, I mean, it's very over the top. The acting is over dramatic. Just the scene where they find the bad guy starts talking on the screen and Jack just grabs everybody we're dead, and it's just so over dramatic. Very over the top, every bit of it. And as I said in the group chat, the whole time I was watching it, I imagined Russell T Davies taking crack cocaine while masturbating at the same time while writing this.
Sorry, one more time?
Just joined at this worst moment you could possibly come in.
All I gotta say is this episode is simultaneously one of my favorite Russell T Davies episodes, and it's kind of also the worst one of the worst ones at the same time. It's weird because by my own subjective standards, it falls into so many things that I don't like, but it's so crazy at the same time, I can't turn away.
I watched it about a week ago, and I was way more kind of steamed and kind of ready to say something, and now I'm kind of like, it's kind of dissipated on me.
Why we take notes, you guys?
I took notes for the first time for this podcast.
Yeah, I should probably take notes. What I will say is that Lucy said it was the best and the worst episode, because for me, this encapsulates everything I like about Russell T Davies' era and everything I hate about it. It's ambitious as hell. It's really over the top. It's really unsubtle, but it's also like it gets really weirdly melodramatic, really sporadically in points. The cast is way too big, even for 2 parts. They're really struggling to like give everyone something to do. I think one thing to point out was Penelope Wilton's character. He's a former prime minister. Yes, we know who we are. I actually keep on forgetting how brief her appearance actually is in it. She's like the one scene where they're all connected and then dead within like 5 minutes.
Which I think is a strength.
She makes an impact even with limited screen time.
She's around for like one sequence, but you remember it.
I think it struggles to balance everything they have going here, and it's a bit over the top with how much stuff they're trying to do and to wrap up the stuff with the bees. There's some nice little subtle moments where they actually wrap in the plots of the other episodes. There's a reference to the Daleks' invasion of Earth, which I really liked. I think Julian Bleach is probably my favorite Davros since the original. As someone who is still steadfast on believing they should not have brought him back after Genesis of the Daleks, that's a well they've touched since for the past 30 or 40 years or so. So, you know, that's not the episode's fault. I think it's a mixed bag, but there's a lot of stuff I like about it. I think they overdo the whole like I'm nobody important, because they really need to hammer in her importance by the end. So I mean, I can't really criticize Russell T Davies not being subtle at this point. Yeah, it's a mixed bag. It feels like there's a lot of what RTD does really well, which is his straight to character and his really ambitious over the top balls out ideas just coming straight at you, but also it can be a bit too very self-indulgent, especially with how he treats his pet characters such as Rose, which I think everyone wants to talk about that thing, so I won't go into it too much here. So yeah, I'm just going to let Brian talk now because I think I've said what he's.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is I will always love this set of episodes for giving us that gif of David Tennant standing in the rain. Because I've used that so much in my life. I love it so much. But this episode, I can't watch it without comparing it to The End of Time, because it's Russell T Davies' actual finale. And without spoiling that episode, obviously, because I imagine we'll get to that later. This seemed like a prototype in certain sense for that, in terms of tone, because there's a lot of camp in Russell T Davies' era, with stuff like Love and Monsters, especially kind of ratcheting it up. And this one seemed like kind of the breaking point, because he went even further with that in The End of Time with like the cactus people and all the other stuff, while also trying to do this super dramatic emotional sledgehammer of an episode. And right here, it almost works. It's like 101 out of 100 on the intensity scale, whereas like The End of Time is 150, and it just completely breaks everything. Especially with like Rose. I've never been a huge fan of the Doctor and Rose. I know that's kind of blasphemous to some fans. You really have to be invested in that relationship to get a lot out of a lot of the scenes in this episode. The first half primarily, and a little bit in the second half, more so near the end with the second Doctor. As someone who was never like huge on that relationship, I was just like, why are they drawing this out so much? Like, why are they blueballing the audience this hard about it? They had that like meadow scene where they were running towards each other in the destroyed street. I was like, please subvert this at the last second. Please subvert this at the last second. And they did it. And I was like, oh, thank God.
Dalek was a hero. He prevented the most cringeworthy moment in the show's history. You achieved your objective, Sean.
I'm Team Dalek in this episode. I also love how the Daleks were considerate enough to translate their murder proclamation into different languages. So that people would know. They were saying like butchered German, like exterminarian or something. And
I remember someone saying that exterminarian isn't even a real German word, but they just used it.
I like to think the Daleks didn't care enough to learn any actual German.
We're like, it sounds German enough. But yeah, I think overall, Russell T Davies, like, camp kind of defines his era and just managed to level it for me. He's not the Russo brothers, so he can't really balance a large cast by himself, as you guys have already stated. So it's just a little bit too much, but I still found a lot to enjoy in the episode. If I just completely ignore and block out that meta running scene, I'm A-okay with it. So that's my overall thoughts on the episode. And Harry Jones, also best scene in the episode, especially when the Daleks came in and said, "We know who you are." And I was like, that's how you pay off a joke.
I don't think any other Dalek in the show's history has managed to actually shoot the Doctor. That Dalek must be a legend in the Dalek Hall of Fame or something.
Yeah, they have a statue of him on Skaro. It's just like, yep.
The beginning of Asylum of the Daleks is actually that Dalek.
Yeah.
As far as we know, it's the only Dalek to force the Doctor to regenerate.
I wasn't the
Kind
only
of.
person who needed subtitles for that little German old lady with Martha, right?
I like that she very conveniently spoke English, so they didn't have to keep doing the translation stuff.
I think there's an explanation for that, though, because there was English soldiers who came to the whatever building it was. A castle. Was it a castle? So I guess she would be required to know a bunch of different languages for whoever came there. That's just my explanation, I suppose.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen, we're at a crossroads here because I have a lot of things that I could say in response to like little things that have been said, like little moments of this episode. I get the feeling, as has been mentioned, that a lot of our time is going to be spent on the Rose.
But I want to talk about the things I like. Damn it.
Rose demands our attention.
I'm a Rose fan with Eccleston, but like Rose with Tennant makes me want to vomit. So
I feel like my thoughts on Rose are probably the same as yours, but like just more concise. I'll just say, which I feel like Nick is also going to add on to, I feel like this would be a good episode for you if you liked Rose, but if you don't like Rose, it kind of falls apart, especially if you're like clone thing, which really doesn't need to exist for any reason other than Rose's closure. Hypothetically, you could just have him put all of his regeneration energy into the hand, have it stay as a hand, have the vial break, have the hand touch Donna, and the same effect would happen. I really don't like his existence. I would say retroactively his existence is made better by Time of the Doctor. It makes the stakes of that episode more dramatic because they count him as a regeneration, which is why Matt Smith is like, I'm all out, and it's like vanity problems, that one.
But here's the thing, you could still just have the regeneration energy go into the hand, and that still could count as regeneration without having a whole nother clone.
The one thing I will say about the hand thing is that no matter how dumb that whole thing with Rose getting her own cloned David Tennant is, that it's always hilarious how surprisingly far in advance plot he sets up these little plot threads. Because the hand thing was around since the Christmas special in 2006 and was involved in Torchwood. Like,
Right?
it had been set up for a while.
I don't know if I'd consider that setup, though. Like, I mean, in the sense that it is a payoff to a thing that we have previously set up. But clearly, like, at no point prior to this series did we have it in the plan that that hand would grow into a different Doctor.
Constant presence does at least make it feel like this was planned out. It probably wasn't, but it does feel like it.
It doesn't really matter if it was planned out or not, as long as it works out.
Yeah. His incorporation makes his story seem a lot larger. Like,
yeah, this has been a constant presence throughout, so it feels like this has been planned for a while.
That's part of the way that this is like our big, like we've been saying, sort of pseudo finale to the whole Russell T Davies era, which is like this hand has been a plot point for like
a while,
2 or 3 years now. It makes sense that it would show up here, and it's been in multiple shows. It makes sense that we would pay it off here.
Thinking of Clom.
Right, Clom, which is a little bit of a harsh line because it's like they're going through the list of planets that have been taken, and they're like, Clom, who would want Clom? Yeah. And Clom, for those who don't remember, is the Absorbaloff planet.
From the greatest episode of Doctor Who.
I guess Russell T Davies was feeling a bit insecure about writing Love and Monsters.
We have to make it plot relevant, otherwise they'll never rewatch it.
They appear in the flashbacks of the people who sacrifice themselves, the Linda members.
I forgot about that.
Not Linda, what have I done?
Oh no.
Moaning Myrtle, no.
If we're gonna talk about Rose, then I've got to talk about like just what I don't like about the hand thing. That, like Eden says, it really feels like we contrived all of this as a means of giving Rose her happy ending.
Yeah.
Which is, again, a thing that Brianna and I discussed, which is like, as someone who dislikes Rose generally, I really don't mind her in these episodes too much. There's the moment when they're all on the video call, and she's like, Martha, who's she? And like, I was here first.
I forgot about that.
That makes her look really petty, really annoying. But outside of that, I don't really mind her as a presence across these 2 episodes. I think she's fine. But as someone who generally doesn't love Rose, it does just kind of niggle at me that, like, we contrived this whole thing just to make that character happy and I don't like her. But whatever, I can accept that, fine. A lot of people do like Rose. Russell clearly likes Rose. He's entitled to do whatever he wants with his own characters. I want to know what came first. What came first? Was the idea to give Rose a clone doctor, and that's where we started from? Or did we start from, we're going to do a fake out regeneration? Because that whole thing just feels really forced to me. It's like he's regenerating. It's a big cliffhanger. But no, he just puts his hand on the hand, and then he can stay looking the way he is.
Having gone back and just watched a few old David Tennant videos, we all knew he was going to leave, but he did say he would be back for the specials. So I'm assuming the fake out regeneration was like the thing that was planned first, because at the time the specials weren't done filming. I was talking to Nick about like how, and we established this in the classics more than we do in the modern series, but like the Doctor just kind of sucks at being a Time Lord.
Yeah.
Because like the implication with like Romana and the Master and the Ronnie and all that and Rassilon is like they can choose what they look like, and they can choose to look the same if they want to, or like that like 5-hour period that it takes to like regenerate. They can like change their appearance a bit to see what fits them best. The Doctor basically pulls that trick, but it's like established that he's like really sucky at doing that. So like the idea of him controlling it to the point where he just becomes the exact same person, what was even the point?
That was one scene, Douglas Adam deciding to regenerate Romana because the actress left, and they were like, we can just regenerate her because she's a Time Lord. And he goes, how will this happen? Let's just turn it into a stand-up routine. And it destroyed fans' brains for pretty much ever.
Just one of those scenes we pretend does not exist.
It's completely comedic as well, which is even better.
Yeah.
They're
Also,
don't take it seriously.
My mom didn't know any of this stuff, like when she was watching it for the first time with me a couple years ago. And when she saw like the ending, she's like, "Oh no, he's gonna regenerate. This is crap." And then when he didn't regenerate, she was like, "Oh, that was also crap."
I think people.
Can I just say about the regeneration cliffhanger? I think if you were watching in 2008, I think it has a lot more impact because.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure I'm right, David Tennant had not yet announced when he was leaving. He only announced that he was leaving in 2010, after Journey's End finished. So when the Stolen Earth cliffhanger happened, everybody was pretty much on the edge of their seats wondering, is he actually going to regenerate mid-story? As for the conclusion, I don't really mind it. I think there's been worse cop-out endings. I think at least here they tried to provide an explanation, and for me it worked well. I'm not really sure why he decided he wanted to keep his own face, but I guess it fits in with Ten's character, and it fits in with the end of time.
He's very arrogant. He doesn't want to change.
He has a handsome face.
Levitt even makes this crack at Ten in the Time of the Doctor where he says, I had vanity issues at the time.
I think it's mainly that he doesn't want to be going through a post-regeneration haze in the middle of the universe potentially being destroyed, because that could mess things up completely.
Are you kidding? That would be amazing.
I think him making the crack about his face was just him making a joke. I think it's more to do with the fact that he needed to be stable for him to deal with Davros and the Daleks.
I wanted to see Drunk Doctor fighting Davros. That would have been amazing. I would have paid money to watch that episode.
I think maybe like one of my few remaining issues with it, there's how it ties into what we do with Donna, which I'll get into in a minute. But there's also just the fact that, like we said, this is an episode where there's a lot going on, and it kind of feels like it's just one more too many things going on. Got everybody back, and Davros is here, and the Daleks are like putting people in gas chambers, and all the stuff in the world is going on, and also we have a clone, and the clone spends most of the episode with Donna. It's really odd, I feel like.
Doesn't every companion also have like a world blow up button too? Like Martha has the Osterhagen key. I don't even remember what the other ones were doing.
Sarah Jane has the crystal.
The contained explosion. I forgot about that completely.
They could have cut that.
The Martha subplot to me is actually one of the main issues as far as not fitting everyone in well, because I don't think the Martha subplot actually goes anywhere besides like Davros giving a big speech about how the Doctor companions are weapons, but she spends the whole of Journey's End pretty much on this goose chase, then just gets teleported away, so it just feels like that's a bit kind of wasting time.
It's a lot. No, I agree. It's a lot of screen time. It's a lot of story. It's a lot of the events going on just for it to resolve to be look, Doctor, you are bad. That's the culmination of this entire subplot. And then you get like Jack Harkness going like, I found a thing, I'll blow it up.
Okay,
so
if we can
clearly
talk about one scene in particular in relation to that, when I talked in previous episodes about there being that dramatic and camp kind of balance that gets completely thrown off, you have that awful, awful line delivery with Jack when he goes, "We're dead," and he's just like hugging everybody. Can't take it seriously. And then you see the scene with Sarah Jane, and she's just like,
Yes.
Elizabeth Sladen is just acting the shit out of that scene, and I legitimately feel fear for her and Luke. And it's paired with that Jack scene, and I'm like, I want to care about you so badly, but Jack has completely ruined it.
I love Davros and Sarah Jane recognizing each other. That was great.
Yes.
we said we were going to talk about Rose, and we've put it off. So
Nobody wants to talk about.
Eden and I have already said our pieces about Rose, so everyone else can input on Rose later. But I have things to say about the scene that we're on right now. First of all, I didn't mind John Barrowman's line reading. Personally, I thought it was fine. It is not on the same level as Elizabeth Sladen, that's correct.
This really made me miss Elizabeth Sladen.
Yeah, like several
This
times
episode's
watching these episodes, Eden was like, oh my gosh, I miss Elizabeth Sladen so much.
So good.
I love that scene, and like I don't take that as a thing that's like too campy, just on principle, because I love the fact that Jack is like, he thinks they're doomed. I love "We're Dead" as a line, and I love it paired with Sarah Jane's reaction, and I love that no one else has that reaction.
It's effectively because the Daleks actually killed Jack. Jack's never beaten the Daleks.
Jack and Sarah Jane both have very limited experiences with the Daleks, and their experiences with the Daleks is pretty much the Daleks won and killed everyone. Where it's like Sarah Jane primarily knows them through Genesis, where she was in this incredibly populated location. The Daleks just mowed down every single person.
The fourth Doctor had the ability to kill them all.
She and the Doctor and Harry got out alive, and that was it. And Jack, everyone around Jack died, and then he died. You compare that to Martha and Rose, who have both seen the Daleks be defeated. And so it makes sense that, like, out of everyone in the cast, Jack and Sarah Jane are the two who are like, nope, this is it. It's the end of the world. We're all dead. We're doomed.
That Sarah Jane scene would not work if the only time she encountered the Daleks was death to the Daleks, because they're absolutely useless in that. That's the only other time she encounters them. And so if she sees them exterminating themselves because they lost a hostage, I mean, her reaction in The Stolen Earth when the Daleks appear would be just like, wait, why is she so scared of the Daleks? They were completely crap.
And I think it's one of the biggest strengths of Genesis that they're only really on the screen for that story for like 20 minutes, and they annihilate everyone around them. So she is right to be terrified.
They murdered more people than the Insane Clown Posse.
I think with me, like, it comes down to line delivery. Like, that scene can work in theory. Something about the way that he says it, I laugh every single time I see that scene, and I can't stop myself.
I have with most of the acting here, it's like everybody's at a 10, especially the 10th Doctor.
Because this whole story deserves that kind of, like, intensity.
I'm a sucker for melodrama.
I like the stuff with the Warp Star and the Osterhagen key. I really like that because we get to this point where they're all sort of like enacting their plans at the same time, and it's this constant ramping up of tension. Everyone has got like this different approach to basically blow up the entire universe, and it just keeps escalating and escalating and escalating, and then Davros brings it down, and he's like, you see what you did? Like, you see how you affect people, Doctor? Like, you think I'm bad. Everyone who comes into contact with you is, like, put into this position. Like, your friends were about to destroy the planet to stop me, and that's on you. I really like that moment. I thought it was good.
Just to go back on the whole thing with everyone reacting to the Daleks, I have more of a meta-criticism about that, and that's more of how the Daleks have been used throughout the new series, where, like in the classic series, they became kind of a joke, and it's kind of hard for me to take this weightiness so seriously, when the last time we saw them was Daleks in Manhattan, and the human-Dalek hybrid, and that's just flashing through my mind where I'm going like, Dalek Khan comes back in the story as well, another one of the 20 billion subplots in this, like, plot threads that they try to jam into this two-parter. But just to speak on that scene, I don't have a problem with Davros bringing up the effect the Doctor has on other people. I really like that. And again, Russell T Davies' strength is that he's able to pick out flaws within the Doctor's character and how he has a negative effect on other people. And the consequences of his adventures is a huge theme of the show. And you saw it with, like, in the first series where the Simon Pegg place turns into the setting for the finale because of the Doctor's involvement. Harold Saxon wouldn't have been able to take over if he did if it wasn't for the Doctor getting rid of Harriet Jones. Stuff like that. That's really interesting. My problem with it is more that we spent a lot of time on Marcia's built up to something really relevant and important to the story, and it ends up being a minor point onto Davros' speech against the Doctor for how much time he spends in it, and especially how rushed Jack's plan is set up. Like, Sarah Jane just has a crystal and Jack plans to blow it up.
I haven't watched enough to know this. Did she get that in a Sarah Jane Adventures episode?
I haven't seen enough of the show to know, possibly.
Has anyone here watched Sarah Jane Adventures? I haven't.
I've seen a few episodes.
I
I
would
used to watch it every week on CBBC.
I watched a two-parter with Nicholas Courtney in it because it always bugged me that the break was never in the was in the revised series. But that's a completely different topic. It's one of the things where whenever I think of something really positive about the episode, I think of a negative thing is that the whole thing about the Doctor's effect on people doesn't really pay off in this story, maybe in Waters of Mars or in later stories, and I guess the idea is that his influence on Donna, both metaphorically, both emotionally, and also literally in the terms that she becomes part-time Lord. I'm guessing that was supposed to be the payoff, but it doesn't feel like it really hits that note that they wanted to.
It's funny that you bring that up because of the stakes in this episode specifically. Like, Davros is like, oh, you turn all of your companions into monsters willing to blow up the planet, while he's in the middle of trying to blow up every single universe of all time. And it's just like, is it bad to turn people into soldiers when they're constantly in war?
Yeah, no, see, I don't have that problem. I don't think Davros is under the impression that he's any better than the Doctor. He just knows that the Doctor is self-righteous and sees himself as better than him.
He really falls flat for me because immediately after he says that, he said, "How many people will die for you, Doctor?" And you show a bunch of random people that died in episodes, and some of them are for Love and Monsters. The Doctor can actually meet them. He has memories of them.
Yeah, I'm with Eden. I like that moment. I like that montage of all of the side characters who have died since series.
It's like a parody.
I will also bring up the fact that, you're saying that, Davros is trying to guilt the Doctor when he's about to destroy all the universe. He's very openly megalomaniacal, and he's basically trying to point out that the Doctor is a moral hypocrite.
I get the picture of the scene and what they're trying to accomplish. It's just the execution of it just failed miserably from me. Execution is the problem. It's not, I get the point what they're trying to go for because they've done scenes like that in other parts of the show, but yeah, it just made me laugh.
My problem with it is more that I was thinking it would have a bigger impact on the conclusion than it really ends up having. I guess the whole idea is then when they join together to fly the Earth back into its axis, the idea, because they all join together. Look, the Doctor's brought his whole family together.
6 people are supposed to fly the TARDIS, apparently, even though we've never seen that before or since.
All of the stuff with everyone together and interacting is I thought it was all great. This is the Infinity War of Doctor Who episodes, and it really does feel like that. Where when we get different characters on screen together and having fun and stuff, I'm like, yes, more of this. I love it. It's great.
That is the scene where Russell T. Davies his jizz.
There's this moment Donna puts all the Daleks on spin mode, and Sarah Jane and Rose come up on one, and Sarah Jane's good to see you again, and Rose is you too, and she has this great big dopey smile, and it's so much fun.
A lot of great callbacks in this story, I think, to previous episodes, which I like. It makes the whole era feel connected.
I will say that one scene where they are doing that, I think that's officially when the Daleks stop being scary.
I don't have a problem with any of the campiness in this episode personally. None of it feels too cheesy to me until we get to the Dr. Donna stuff. Because as soon as she starts doing that, this doesn't feel satisfying to me. It just feels silly. When we get the Doctor's intelligence and Donna, I don't know what it is. Something about it is just not working for me.
Is it that she literally controls everything on one panel?
No, I feel it's just the tone of the scene and her performance, and it's it doesn't feel climactic. It feels goofy.
And just because we had an entire episode, and this episode really puts in the idea of Donna's importance to the most important person in the universe and stuff like that. What she ends up doing in terms of actual action is she touches a hand and then she gets zapped, and then she becomes like the Doctor, and that's what makes her very important. She basically acts like David Tennant for a bit, and that's her cosmic significance to the universe.
And apparently that reverberated backwards in time, and that was why she was important in the first place, according to this episode too.
Gets punished for being like the Doctor.
I hate the line that the Doctor has is the Ood saw it coming. The Dr. Donna in it to call back to the planet of the Ood. No, bad. Hate it. That doesn't make any sense.
I agree, actually, because what they were doing with that is the Ood were basically just calling them Dr. Donna, because that's how they introduced themselves It was not a prophecy. I think the 10th Doctor was completely misunderstood.
And like the Daleks coming back, all of that stuff feels earned. And Rose coming back, like we've been setting that up. All of that stuff feels earned, like we've been planting the seed of it throughout this series. That just, no, that's not what that is. That's a weird thing that Russell and Moffat will also do this later. Well, they'll retroactively look at something and be like, it was destiny the whole time. No, it's just a little innocuous thing. Not everything has to be foreshadowing to your big grand destiny.
Well, there is that, and then there's also like the death prophecies that pop up a lot that end up just being completely wrong. Like especially in this episode.
In this episode,
they keep saying Donna's gonna die. Donna's gonna die.
No, he's
and
like one of the companions. He's like the most faithful companion will die. And then as they're all getting into the TARDIS, as like Davros is like everything is exploding, Khan is still like, one of them will still die, and then no one dies.
I hate the metaphorical death in these kind of prophecies.
Yeah.
Like, just if you're gonna do it,
the Rose one,
stab one of them.
The Rose one in series 2 was a lot worse because they basically spent 2 episodes hyping up that Rose will die, and then 10 just says, "Oh, by the way, you're like officially dead." So,
well, we do the exact same thing here, Rob. It's the exact same thing where he's like,
I think both are equally terrible.
With the Rose thing in series 2, she literally comes on screen and goes, "I'm Rose Tyler, and I'm going to lie to you in order to make the story more dramatic." It's metaphorically die.
Well, one point about that series 2 finale, though, is it's not even a metaphor in the series 2 finale. They literally tell you that Rose will die, and then it turns out officially on the list of the dead.
She's legally dead.
It is true from a certain point of view.
No.
Random note, I like how having to jump 1 second into the future is like strenuous enough to like set the TARDIS on fire. Like
you have to use all the phones too to do it.
Should not make short trips. Where like last week I kind of felt like Donna ironically got lost in the shuffle amongst everyone else doing all their stuff. Now I don't quite feel that way. Although you know what? When we do go to the Shadow Proclamation planet, or their base or whatever, and there's that one random albino lady who's like, "I'm sorry for your loss, Donna. I mean, the loss is yet to come." That's another thing I hate when Russell and Moffat do this, where they need to shoehorn this prophecy into everything. And like they have to have characters who can see the future for no reason, or characters who are like freaking prophets talking to our main characters for no reason other than we've got to build up some drama for the audience. The Daleks are invading Earth and they're putting people in gas chambers. There's enough drama.
I don't see it as a massive problem that cripples the story or anything.
No, but it's annoying.
It's like pretty much have this habit when it comes to series finales. And I think series 10 is probably the only one that avoided this. Of everything is high stakes. Everything has to be like, shoved at you and saying this is important, this is gonna happen. And yeah, it's kind of an annoying habit I think both of them had, which you just kind of have to deal with.
I think it really hits the A point for me is in Planet of the Dead, where this random woman just happens to can see into the future who's on this bus, and then she just turns to the doctor. "By the way, you're going to die. Bye."
Oh, we'll get to that one.
Daniel, who mentioned it was great seeing Sarah Jane and Davros meet face to face again. That was great. Ironically, given that I talked about her for like 2 hours off camera, I don't have too much to say about Rose that I haven't already said, so I'm just going to let you guys take it.
Let the Rose bashing begin.
Can I say that I haven't already said? I'm not sure. I think I've said my bit.
I think one of the things is that they build up her return a lot in the episode, and like it's not that she doesn't have a significant role in the story, but like Nick said about Donna, I think Rose gets lost in the shuffle a bit more, especially because she has that big moment on the beach at the end with the other doctor. I think I'm trying to remember what she really does in the episode, aside of look for the doctor, be reunited with the doctor, and then just kind of hangs out with him afterwards.
That bit where they're all on the phone, like you guys were talking about earlier, and Rose is like able to connect and hear the audio, but she can't like project herself into the call. That was like one of the most contrived parts for me, because I'm like, you're just trying to find reasons in the story for them to not meet until they're face to face. Got to blue ball the audience.
Actually, I think in Journey's End she mentions probably one of my least favorite moments in the show's history is when Rose talks about she came through the parallel universe by building a dimension cannon so they could blow through the parallel universe and come back to the normal universe. How? so number one, how? And number two, that is dangerously unhinged behavior. You're gonna
Also,
blow a hole in the universe to literally see the Doctor again.
But Rob, it's
Did-
for
And
love.
it's just,
So it
why is she
implies-
not in a mental asylum? It just
Yeah,
drives
doesn't-
me crazy.
yeah,
She
doesn't
blew
the
a hole in
episode-
the universe. And how do you even build a cannon that can destroy the walls?
You can do it for
on
David
Earth?
Tennant's love.
In reality, it's collapsing on itself, and Davros is taking advantage of that to destroy everything.
I think what bugs me mainly is just it's such a
They don't
lazy,
explain it at all,
lazy
yeah.
reason why Rose is back. Oh
Again,
yeah, she built some sort of dimension cannon. She blew through the walls and then came back. Oh, great.
I may have misread it because I don't really know how Davros takes advantage of Medusa Cascade to try to destroy the universe and all that stuff and his new machines and all that kind of stuff. But the episode seems to imply that the entire universe is going to be destroyed because Rose was so thirsty for David Tennant. She blew a hole in the parallel dimensions.
Actually, no, they say in Journey's End that they'll also destroy all the parallel universes.
Yeah.
So actually, yeah, parallel universes were part of the plan.
It sounded like that's what the implication was, but because nobody reacted to it, I was like, okay, maybe I'm just reading this completely wrong. Because that would be hilarious if Rose nearly destroyed the entire universe.
Absolutely. To get laid.
I don't think it would be the first time. Like, she did that in Father's Day as well.
To me. Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from.
The whole plan is literally, I'm going to make a machine that's going to destroy every universe and every parallel universe. But here's the thing. There's a parallel universe where it worked. So every universe ever not
Please don't do this.
No. The way that they describe it, the
Don't
Medusa
try and think
Cascade
about it.
is like a singularity at the center of the multiverse. So he's the only one that got in there somehow. If you think about it too much, your brain will explode. So
I'm so happy I thought about this like not at all.
there still should be a parallel universe where it works. I'm just saying.
Like
I-
all of that stuff around Davros, I just like my brain turns off when we get into that. Like
Khan, man. The worst one was Dalek Khan. They were like, he just got into the Time War somehow. And then they're like, okay, how did he do it? No one's ever done it. And they were just like,
it's like emergency temporal shift. I guess he just shifted himself in there by accident. And also, I heard Daleks in Manhattan slander earlier from Daniel. My new hot take: Daleks in Manhattan is a good episode.
I don't like that story, but I enjoy it ironically because the Daleks' dialogue is so goofy. It's just great. Dalek Sec orders the Dalek not to kill the Doctor, and he says, "The urge to kill is too strong."
Urge to kill
And I love it.
rising.
Yeah, we should just like re-review that episode.
So bad. At least the Daleks are kind of threatening in this story, like until the end.
Really funny joke. I like when they're in the TARDIS after Dr. Donna and Clone Doctor and stuff happen. I like when they're in the TARDIS and they're giving everybody their jobs and whatever. It's like, you do this, you do this, you do this.
I like celebrating, and Donna like yanks Sarah Jane off of Captain Jack so that she can hug him.
Fair. My mom would do the same thing.
Captain Jack is a thirst magnet.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone on the show is immune to Captain Jack's
I don't like it either.
charms
What was that YouTube
at all.
that went viral? It was like, if you're a man and you're attracted to another man, you're gay. If you're a man and you're attracted to Captain Jack Harkness, you're human.
I liked his reunion with Mickey. That was really sweet. Mostly because
Mickey
both
Mouse.
Mickey and Jack are just way more likable than Rose.
Captain Cheesecake.
And that's enough hugging.
I would
Mickey's
watch,
like, get away from
say I would watch a series, but I would watch an episode or two of just Mary, Nikki, and Martha doing awesome unit stuff.
I guess we're meant to take from the fact that they go off together with Jack at the end of this episode, like that makes sense that they are married.
According to
It's
I
Trost,
know.
Mickey breaks up Martha's relationship with Tom Mulligan.
the devil the whole time. That kind of puts a damper on your.
I might complain about this more near the time because that made no sense. Outside the fact that Russell T Davis just wanted to cram both those characters into one scene. Like,
Russell T Davis, a writer who apparently says he hates exposition. That scene with Martha and Mickey is like, oh, yeah, this is no place for a married woman. Well then, you shouldn't have married me.
no,
Come
my favorite part
on.
This episode is all over
This
the
one-
place.
yeah.
We are all over the place.
Well, I like most of the stuff on the screen together, other than Rose being like, I was here first. But there was one line after all of that. I can't remember what she says, but it was actually emotional. She was like, I'll help too, or something like that. And it's like, oh, that was cute. But I love when they're looking when they're communicating with Torchwood and Rose and the Doctor are like, Gwen, do you have any family ancestry from Cardiff? And
Oh,
she's
yeah.
yes, so they're like, ah.
It's a callback
It's a
to the
callback.
episode that I always skip.
No, that was-
Harsh.
Like every Mark Gatiss episode.
Are we going to talk about the scene on Melodramatic Beach, or are we just going to skip, leave it.
No, it never happened.
We all have very differing opinions on the episode. Nobody seems to like that resolution with the clone.
If I liked Rose, I would probably like it,
Exactly.
but I don't.
I mean, it's like she doesn't even get a real doctor, just some sort of pet clone doctor. It's very strange.
Yeah, she already got a good enough ending. We didn't need to do another one.
The one thing that I will make reference to from the discussion that Brianna and I had is that part of this is also just how much do you look at the clone as just the doctor again, and how much do you look at it as it's its own person, and Rose looks really bad for just going straight to Smooch Town with a completely different person in front of Glove.
Technically a minor because he's like 6 hours old.
Yeah.
Just gonna address the elephant in the room there.
6 years old and he already killed the whole species, so...
He didn't kill the whole species, just most of them.
Oh yeah,
It's
one
completely
ship
different.
survived.
Yeah, it's completely different.
But yeah, no, that's a genuine moment that's up to interpretation. Is this its own person, or is it the man that she fell in love with a second time?
Either way, it would be very uncomfortable.
That human doctor must live a miserable existence. Like, literally just has, like, one life. I mean, the lifespan of a human, he has to spend all of it with Rose.
All of the Doctor's memories. So he's the human with the memories of a 1,000-something-year-old alien who's been through some crap, and then he will die.
It'll be fine. Everything's fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's a good pair of episodes. It has its problems, but it's mainly just a ridiculous roller coaster, and I like it.
I love it. I love these episodes, even though you can nitpick them to death, which we've spent a lot of these doing, and the stuff with Rose genuinely sucks. Journey's End doesn't use everybody, the whole cast of characters it has very well. Overall, these two episodes just have a lot of strengths that cannot be ignored, and as much as it's very flawed, I think this is one of my top 3 finales of the revived series. And this would have been a lot better as an ending to 10-0 than the end of time was, in my view. So there we go.
My opinion is it's a fun mess, but it's still a mess. It's just all over the place. I mean, like I said, I have a lot of fun watching it, but it's kind of just like a big train wreck all the time. And I think it actually made me realize why a lot of this era doesn't click with me, because a lot of it comes off kind of like a parody. And I think that's why most of the Russell T Davies didn't click with me.
I think this is a mess. It's got some really cool ideas, and I like a lot of the character interactions. I think Davros is really great in this. I really like Julian Bleach in the role. I know he came back already, but I hope he comes back again sometime soon. But it's one of those things where it feels like it's trying to wrap up way too much stuff all at once, and it just feels they're trying to cram everything in there, and it feels a bit too all over the place. Like I said, a lot of the stuff with the Daleks' plan to destroy the universe is kind of hand-waved away by a lot of sciencey things. There is a lot of weird expository stuff. More accurately, not really, because he tries to rush past it in order to get to the fun stuff, which I can understand. So pretty ambivalent. There's some good stuff. There's some dumb stuff. There's some melodramatic, annoying stuff. But that's kind of par for the course for finales for the Revive series. I will say it is better than The End of Time, but that's more because I don't like The End of Time at all, and I'm more ambivalent to enjoy this story. So yeah.
The End of Time is the worst.
From End of Time on to the end of this episode, it would have worked better as a finale. Although we wouldn't have gotten the Waters of Mars. Overall, I'd give the episode probably like a 7.5 out of 10. Like, as I said before, excess and camp are kind of Russell T Davies' defining qualities for episodes, and this has a lot of both. And other than that, I can't shake the feeling that Russell T Davies paired off Mickey and Martha because they were two of the only black characters. Yeah, the seeds are planted here, let's say that much. Not that there are many, but they are planted. But yeah, those are my thoughts on it.